Okay. And the last game of the day is Sonic 3D Blast. This game is... I think I'd go as far to say this is the worst Sonic game ever made. And considering my very public dislike of Sonic games, I think that is saying quite a bit. As you can tell, this is an isometric Sonic game. It does not control well, even in the slightest. This was released during the sort of same time period that Donkey Kong Country was coming out. Just kind of put it in sort of perspective. You had new consoles on the horizon, or some may have even been released. I don't remember exactly what year this came out. I think the successor to the Genesis, the Saturn, might have actually already been released at this time. But oh my god. There was a desire to lengthen the life cycle of these old consoles through the use of pre-rendered characters and backdrops, and that's what you're seeing here. These are not being rendered in 3D on the Genesis itself. That what they are doing is rendering it out on a what at the time was likely a supercomputer, and then displaying that render on the Genesis. Is similar to what Nintendo would do with Donkey Kong Country around this time as well. And like in Donkey Kong Country, the goal was simply to provide something visually compelling, and it was especially important to Nintendo because the N64 would not be released for a couple more years, or at least one more year. I am going to admit I'm not sure if this came out in 95 or 96, 95 being the year the Saturn was released. In summer of 95, the PS1 in the holiday season of 95, and the N64 was in 1996. Oh my god. But regardless, the Nintendo suffered from having its console come out a year later than the PS1, and a year and a half later than the Saturn, and some of the less well-known consoles of that era, like the 3DO and the Atari Jaguar. I believe the Jaguar came out in 94 even, so it was a significant delay for Nintendo, and to try to combat the perception that the Super Nintendo was not worth getting, they created these pre-rendered style games. And this was Sega copying Nintendo as usual. The difference being, again, as usual, this game was not nearly as well made as what Nintendo was putting out. I may have not actually mentioned what I'm supposed to be doing in these levels is collecting the little birds and bringing it to that ring. I'm just looking for where the last bird is right now. I do not remember. Like I said, I did not play that much of this game. I believe is there. I do not recall if I've ever actually even beaten this level. This game, it is just the issue is the controls and the camera perspective, because what you have is a camera from a third person, you know, a top-down isometric view, which does not work especially well for a platforming game where you need very accurate camera movements to I could have sworn that was the goal of this, was to get all those. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now. Okay. I just needed to stand on it. Great. I'm pretty sure this just rinses and repeats for the entirety of the game. Like I said, I'm not sure I ever got past this level, but this is one of the worst games I have ever played. Truly, it is incredibly difficult to control. I'm going to say that unlike the Sonic 1 through 3, it seems that this has been straight up ported, not emulated, because this is running much faster than it did on the Genesis, or when directly emulated. If you play the emulated versions of these games, they have them on almost every console just pretty much every console you can imagine. You can play a version of Sonic the Hedgehog, you can play it on your iPhone. If you have ever played this game, either in its original incarnation or in a pure emulated form, you'll know that it performs incredibly poorly, and this is actually significantly easier to control, simply due to the fact that it is running at a frame rate that is in the... I would say I don't recall this game ever getting much more than maybe 20 frames a second. I remember this game performing very poorly. And the poor performance in combination with the less than ideal controls made this game just really not very fun. I also think this style of gameplay of just walking around and collecting little animals is not very just creative or enjoyable in really any way that I can. I think Sonic Adventure is a bad game, but I appreciate the level of ambition that went into it, the amount of effort put into it, the love put into the package, and this to me feels like Sega needed a response to Nintendo, and that response was this, and I get the feeling that no one on the development team of this game actually wanted to be developing this game, and that may not be true. Maybe, hey look, it's Tails. That may not be true. Maybe people thought this was a good idea. I don't really know. But regardless, it just does not feel very inspired. It feels exactly like the very poor attempt at 3D that it is. I'm just super confused about this whole level, honestly. I do not get why I went back down here. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to give Tails a certain number of rings. Like I said, I do not remember very much about this game. The most recent I played this would probably be on the... I might have played it on the PS3 Genesis Collection, which came out, I don't know, 5 years ago or something to that effect, and if not, then the most recent time I played this was probably a good decade ago. To me, it's just, in a way, it is sad to see Sonic in this form, you know, just doing this just poorly. This honestly reminds me of, I'm gonna say it was, I'm gonna say it was an early PS1 game. That could may not be true, but it was called Bubsy 3D. It was a very early 3D game. I am certain it was not for the N64. I believe it was for the PS1. It was a very bad game, and very similar in that you were just collecting a bunch of stuff on a uninspired landscape like this. I'm not entirely sure what I need to do here, or if there is anything to do here. Oh, it's Knuckles. I'm honestly not sure what giving these rings to them is doing for me, but hopefully something worthwhile, right? Okay, this is the last bird. And that does the level. I will now see if I have any recollection of this next level. You know, it looks exactly the same as the first, so I couldn't tell you. But it does look like we are continuing to complete the same objective on this level, which is a shame. I'm not entirely sure if there is more to it than this. I'm not sure what you get for giving the extra rings to Knuckles and Tails. other than points, you may just get points for that. I'm not entirely certain. I don't know how much longer I can convince myself to keep playing this. I think if I say one last thing about this game, it should be that when people today talk about bad games, it's always interesting to me because the number of truly terrible games coming out for consoles these days it's so few, and the level of quality control on games these days is just so much higher than what it was in the past. And I honestly can't imagine a developer putting... Okay. I've definitely never seen this. I did not know this was in here, but like I said, this game was all but impossible in its original incarnation. Just due to the issues with the frame rate, so yeah. The frame rate here is making this much easier to play, no more fun. It's still just as bad a game, but at least now it is playable. I assume that's supposed to be a Chaos Emerald. Okay. I'm gonna say I did not get any lives for that. I'm not entirely sure how to get more lives in this game, or if there is a way. But even calling this the best version of this game, which I think, as far as I know, and I've played this game on quite a few different platforms, and I have never played one that ran this well. I still would not recommend this. I cannot think of a game I honestly would recommend less. Even something like... God, you know, there are games that are so bad they're good, and are at least worth playing for a laugh. This is not such a game. It is just straight up bad. It is just straight up boring. You know, Sonic Adventure, at the very least, it's humorous in how terrible a lot of it is, but it is humorous in that, at least. And this is just boring and uninspired and bad. I'm probably going to call this with that. About as much of this game and about as much Sonic as I can take for one night. What we have coming up, I think I'm going to go back to 3D Sonic with Sonic Adventure 2. And then I'm going to do Sonic CD. And then we're going to... Oh my god. We're going to do Sonic Generations, I believe, after that. I might do both Sonic CD and Sonic 4 in one day, and then end with Sonic Generations, just because it represents the sum total of all Sonic. And I believe is the most recent of the games in the collection that I got. I believe maybe Sonic 4 Episode 2 came out later, but I think that is my plan for the next several days. I am recording this on a Wednesday. This will probably not be up for a couple of days, just because I'm going to have to splice all these individual videos together, so that will take a little while. But I do plan on playing more Sonic tomorrow night. When that will get up online, I do not know. So, with that, I am going to say goodbye and good night to everyone. That is Sonic the Hedgehog, the main series anyway, on the Genesis. There's also the Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which is similar to Tetris, and was responsive to Dr. Mario, and also Sonic Spinball, which is again a very bad pinball game. Though I'd be interested, honestly, to see if they have improved the frame rate on that as well. If they have, I may actually do a video on that as well. Until then, though, this is Seth signing off for the night. Goodbye, folks. Good night.